design.
I found myself on the floor. And I found myself, he was banging my head on the floor, continuously banging my head. I started telling God, I want to leave. God, let me leave. Don't let me die here.
He began threatening me. Sometimes he would throw me out. Once he came drunk, I would spend the night in the toilet.
At one time he burnt my Bible. Actually, he burnt my Bible just to discourage me from going to church.
I, Jonathan, do take you, Isabella, to be my lovely wedded wife, for better and for worse, till death do us part. Amen.
Vows are binding promises that couples make to each other on their wedding day. These promises mean a lot to many couples, if not all. But why does it turn out to be difficult in living these commitments?
Those vows are easier to say, but to do them, people need the grace of God. And so individuals who are getting into marriage need to think through before they get into marriage. And throughout their marriage, they need to keep working at it. When you make vows, who are you making them to? They are your own words against your own words. Whether somebody is watching you or not, those are vows you make to the person you love, that I will do this regardless of how you perform in this marriage covenant.
When we say till death do us part, it is, I would call it a swag. We are not taking it from our hearts. What actually we do is, it's a show. Our weddings are usually for the people, not internalized. We don't mean what we say. We actually do act. Most people act, of course, for the people who are watching. So what happens when people act? We don't involve God in what we are doing. Very few people or parents will call their children and pray together alone. I don't think that happens. What usually happens is it is acting all through. We want to do a big wedding and we go to church. Then that till death do us part is still part of the show.
God gave a wife to Adam and blessed them. Since then, he has not changed what he first instructed mankind regarding marriage. But the ever-rising cases of domestic violence in marriages today beg more questions than answers.
Research has shown the major 5 areas that cause conflicts. And I would want to first emphasize that conflicts in a marriage relationship is normal, and it just shows that we are being real. It does not mean that when we have conflicts, then that is way out of a normal marriage. Every marriage has conflicts at one point or the other. It's how we solve them, or how we respond to them, or how we manage them that make marriages work or not work. So any couple out there that are having conflicts in their marriages should not feel like theirs is unique. Every couple, every marriage goes through conflict, and it is a test of who we really are.
It's sad to see that things have escalated to the place where they are. But it will be interesting to note that abuse in marriage literally has been with us for a long time. It's just that people never spoke about it. In the older traditional times, I can hear my uncles and my aunties speak about particular abuses, but really they never came into the light because, again, there was no media and there was no opportunity from an African perspective to talk about abuse. So women definitely were abused in marriages, but really the situation never provided. But today it is more glorified because, again, the abuse has taken different perspectives or different ways in which it's showing itself within the marriage. Some of it has been extremely violent, which was never there. And some of it is mild, but is more within. I guess it's because of very many factors that have come up and played today. And it's sad. It's sad that it messes up not only the couple, but also the children.
There is the issue of communication. We have not been able to keep the communication like it used to be. You find that those days, people used to talk. Before someone could get married, there used to be real talking. I think it changed. And more so we are talking of, the talking that we are having is how we will do the wedding. When people go to visit each other, they talk of how is the wedding, the style, how will it be. So that affects, it actually covers what we used to talk about. We used to talk about values in those days. We used to talk about which family are you getting married to? Yeah, what type of people are they? Are they kind? Now those values have been overrun by other issues like style, and you want a big wedding, you know, and I think we lost it.
Domestic abuse happens in the suburbs. It happens behind net curtains and in country farmhouses. It happens everywhere, and no social group is immune.
He did not beat me initially, but he was a very cruel man. As in, he would come into the house, pinch me, and not the usual pinching, the pinching that inflicts pain. Or he would bite me, a biting that, you know, when you look at your nini, hapo penye alikuwa ameuma ni meno. And he'd twist me. You know, twist me behind, but twist mpaka, you know, unavura. But I got used. The first serious beating I received was a year later. I don't know, I can't remember clearly, but it was a fight about food. Something like that. I reacted angrily. Before I knew it, I was on the floor. My daughter was, I think, 4 years. No. My daughter was, I can't remember their ages, but they were young. They were tots, in fact. So there I am on the ground. Alinichapa kwanza. You know, I'm trying to fight back. I've never encountered such a thing. So I'm trying to fight back. Here I am. And of course, he's a man. He overpowered me. I found myself on the floor. And I found myself, he was banging my head on the floor, continuously banging my head. Now I'm on the floor. You know, a mother is a mother. So I'm looking at my kids. They are weeping. They are crying. Here I am on the ground. Kichwa yangu inagongeshwa tu, inagongeshwa. I started telling God, I want to live. God, let me live. Don't let me die here. Don't let me die. In fact, I didn't cry. Before all that happened, something else happened that made me think. Before even that crucial day. One day my son misbehaved. He was rude to me. Son kamchapa. So alikuja akamuuliza, daddy ni nini? Daddy akasema, you know, a character of 3 years ni huyu. So that this man pinned me down, and then he told my son to hit me, to slap me. So then I told my son, jaribu utaona. So my son didn't have an issue. Yeah, unajua ananiogopa mimi ni mama yake, mimi ni disciplinarian wake. So akamwambia mchape. My son refused. Mchape. So akaambia mtoto, mchape ama nitakuchapa. My son started crying. Akamwambia kuja umchape, akanipin down, akaanza kunichapa. Sasa mtoto ananichapa, two tiny slaps. They were not hata za uchungu. But mtoto analia na mimi ninalia. Mimi nalia kwa sababu mtoto wangu analia. At the end of the day alipomaliza, I was left comforting my son.
This being one among many cases men and women face in their day-to-day life, most prefer keeping it a secret rather than speaking out.
Most of the time people keep quiet because it is very embarrassing. It is very, very, in fact it takes a while for the feelings of shame to go away, because the society does not really encourage, it does not, what do we call it, does not encourage women to speak about it, because as we all know it is a patriarchal society. So if you talk about it, your family most likely does not want you to talk about it. And most likely, you also want to keep the status quo. You're married. In Africa, women who are married have got a better standing in the society, more than women who are not married, women who, in fact, the Kikuyu have a name for it. It's called a yeshokyo, because when you walk away from a marriage, because as definitely if it is becoming dangerous, you have to walk away, people will have a name for you.
You know, we are, women and men are wired differently. If you look at a woman, a man getting into a relationship, a man gets in a relationship, pop, I saw you, I like you, I want you, can you stay with me? So within a couple of days, a man is asking you, can you come to my house? Would you like to stay? And really, they don't really know a lot. They move so fast because that's how we are wired. A woman takes time to get into a relationship. They want to know you. They want to feel you. They want to see how do you do these things. So the same way a woman walks into a relationship with everything walking there, she has to live the same way. That's why some women take a long time. They're thinking, so what will happen to my children? She's not thinking about herself. She's literally going through serious abuse. She almost was killed last night. But she's thinking, so if I leave, what will happen to my children? Now, what will happen to some of them even think about what will happen to my mother-in-law. I was taking care of my mother-in-law. You know, they have so much emotion attached to the relationship. There are also some other selfish aspects of the woman that would never want to leave. That is the benefits they get from the relationship. How will I survive? How will the future be? Then there is the cultural aspect. What will people think? What will people say? My brother also had my sister has never, my mom, I'm from a divorced background. So a woman thinks in totality as she wants to live. She's considering so many factors as the abuse still escalates until finally she may end up even getting killed in the relationship. And you ask, why did you ever leave? And she's telling you, you do not understand. You don't know. And then finally, it is very strange that a woman will say this, I still love him. And you're saying, the man is abusing you. He says, but I still love him. I don't know how I can do without this man. And she's genuine. She's actually very genuine. She has a love for this man. What I would say is, if we were well informed about the seriousness of the abuse and what it would do to us, you love that man better if you save yourself from such an abuse. But if you let him kill you, then he goes to prison. So what use is that?
Causes of domestic violence may vary from money matters to sexual relationships, and others blame it on the rising cost of living.
The major reason why people fight and even want to go killing each other is because of what I call emotional disconnection. Husbands and wives feeling like you no longer care about how I feel. You do not care about how I feel. Now, how I feel could be how I feel about the money issues, how I feel about sex, how I feel about children, or how I feel about in-laws, or how I feel about housework. So that is because this marriage relationship is very special. People who are vulnerable and open and tied to one another. Because you remember the 2 equals 1, or the 2 shall become 1. It means I'm sticking to this one man, and so all about me is he should know and he should care. So anytime I feel that my husband doesn't care about how I feel about this issue, then conflict will arise and people would fight. Now when conflicts arise and people are not able to come above it, it could be because they are feeling inadequate or they are fearing. And people respond differently to their inadequacies and to their fears. For a man, when he feels inadequate, either to provide or failure to protect his wife, he resorts to aggression or withdrawal. And so out of that aggression, which is quite unconscious many times, they end up beating their spouse and they could break, or it's chaos in the house. For the women, when they fear, they feel insecure, then they would either confront or become scornful and they could end up burning the spouse with or hacking like we see, and that is the way they choose to respond because of their level of maturity.
Lillian, a victim of abuse whom we have changed her name to protect anonymity, however, thinks to the contrary.
During courtship, men usually hide their true character. But once you get into that marriage, once you get into that box, that is when they show themselves who they are truly are. For example, in my case, that issue of drinking, it started from right when we were in college. He could take 1 or 2 beers. I remember one time had gone out as friends, and then all the 3 friends and all the 3 girls were beaten up. They had agreed we are going to beat them up. So we were beaten up. But since we loved these men, we continued, we married them. Yes, after being in my marriage for 15 years, that is when I saw this man is not changing at all. The things are getting worse day by day. As years continue, as we advance in age, he was becoming worse each day. And that is when I said enough is enough, because of what I had gone through my marriage, in my marriage. That is when I decided enough is enough. I had gone through so much. For example, I have talked about sleeping out, being thrown out of a house which had really contributed towards the construction of the house. I would take loans, and that is how we managed to have our first house. Then, at one time, he never wanted me to go to church. I'm a Christian, I love God. And then he would not allow me to go to church. At one time, he burnt my Bible. Actually, he burnt my Bible just to discourage me from going to church. And that one really hurts me, because I had put God first in my life. And then he was second, and that kind of thing.
I think what I can tell ladies and young men who are yet to get married is get to know your spouse to be. Don't just walk into a relationship because she has a nice body. Man, you can see he drops me at work, he does this, he does that. You don't know him. You don't know him. Don't even say anything. You don't know him. But you see, you can see things in that person that you know. When I argued with him, he pushed me. But then he told me, I'm sorry. That don't worry about that. And you ignored it. Then you are talking another time and he pinched you. And then you are talking at another time and you disagreed and he walked out in anger. And then you are doing another thing and he did this. You are not adding these things up when you are dating to see, what is this telling me? I normally say to couples that are dating or people who are seeking to be in love, first thing you need to do, make each other angry and see how you behave. Now, if you can go through those moments where you make each other angry and you see, oh yeah, we are able to work through these things well, then know you are on a good track. But to always come back together and you look at each other's dimples and you say how nice they look, how well arranged the teeth are, and how this and that is, but you don't do anything to provoke each other so that you can see what is in this relationship. Come late one time, see how he behaves, how she behaves. Do they get furious and they never want to forgive? And even if you want to talk to them, do they go into another relationship and leave you to come back to you later when they are sober? That tells you something. So I think we don't study well. We don't look at who we are dating. We don't get to know them well. We don't get to also use these mechanisms of solving problems early when we are dating. We just kind of brush things out because you love each other.
Recently, on the local news, a woman was alleged of hiring hitmen to kill the husband. Even more shocking, a number of women have confessed to planning their spouses' killing scenarios that begs the question, where does this hatred, anger, and vengeance come from?
Or if there's a crack in the relationship and sex fails, it is actually the beginning of the whole relationship creeping down.
There's a lot of built-up anger inside men and women who are married, and this is because things have been happening and they're building up on top of each other. So something happened last month and we put it under the carpet, and another one happens. So things are building up, and because we are emotionally disconnected, We are not addressing issues as they arise. Possibly we are hoping they will go away, or we are in denial. But in a marriage relationship, issues are better addressed as they arise, because when they pile up, anger is keeping on to pile up.
One of the greatest challenges facing victims of domestic violence is the perception that partner abuse is a private matter, something that marriage counselors disagree with.
Bottom line, 1, abuse is wrong. Every couple must know that. 2, where there is any elements of abuse, every couple should detect it early. Every spouse in a marriage must detect it early and seek for avenues how to deal with it. 3, every spouse must stand up straight and firmly at the appearance of a slap or a push or anything of that nature, and just say, honey, I think there's better ways to deal with the problem we have, but please, when you start pushing me or when you slap me, we are bordering areas where it is not right. Biblically and even on the side of the law, we are not doing right.
When all is said and done, there is no excuse to domestic violence. Marriage is a holy institution that should be honored and respected by both parties as God designed it to be.
So I would like to encourage people and to tell them, get out, talk about it. Don't carry the shame. For 5 years, I carried my shame. I never told a soul because it was so ashamed. But the moment I talked out, I discovered I was healed. Elisha. So be encouraged, get out. And God loves people. He loves us. He loves us. He let me get out. He walked with me through this journey. He healed me, restored me, and made me whole. He can make you whole.